Headline says real estate investors eye student housing as college dorms come up short. So the two gentlemen in the pictures is on the left is Blackstone Stephen Schwartzman, and on the right is Brookfield's Bruce Flatt. People's Park, a Berkeley institution since Governor Ronald Reagan called it in the National Guard to quell protests there 5 decades ago, may be the epicenter of a national student housing crisis that has real estate giants like Blackstone on the prowl. After years of back and forth, the city of University of California, Berkeley, agreed in March to relocate the park's homeless encampment to allow for student housing. How nice of them. They're going to move the homeless out of the way so the students who actually want to come and learn have a place to sleep. The original reason the university bought the land in 1967, though 1,100 new beds are sorely needed, Berkeley long ago ran out of rooms for its students and now could house only about a fifth of its population of 45,000. That's the lowest proportion in the UC system. A fifth of its population, that's all it can house. It's a town grown conflict with the ramifications across the nation, from New York, Yonkers, where the tiny Sarah Lawrence Collins rented a hotel last fall to house students, to UC Santa Barbara, where Warren Buffett's right hand man, Charlie Munger, is trying to tackle a housing crunch by designing an almost windowless dorm. So this is happening across the nation, coast to coast. So as investor interest, as with any crisis, it's only a money-making opportunity. Landmark Properties, whose 55,000 student beds across 30 states makes it one of America's top 10 student housing managers, said in March it formed a $1 billion venture with a unit of the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority to buy and operate student housing properties that haven't reached their full potential value. That's just an initial target for Landmark, based in the University of Georgia's hometown of Athens, and the authority, which managed about 830 billion in 2020. Sorry. It was the second time in less than a year that Landmark joined forces with an institutional investor. Last August, Landmark and Blackstone Group, which operates a 280 billion real estate business, formed a 784 million joint venture to buy and recapitalize an 8-property, 5,400 bed portfolio. Brookfield Asset Management, which oversees 690 billion, in November formed a partnership with Scion Group, a private student housing owner operator, to buy a 27 property portfolio with more than 17,000 beds, making Brookfield's first U.S. bet on student housing, Bloomberg reported. University and college enrollments keep rising, though they dipped during the pandemic, like I mentioned before, and the off-campus housing sector generally doesn't track the economy, making it a phenomenon diversifier in commercial real estate portfolio. Let me read that again. It says, the off-campus housing sector, which is student housing, generally does not track the economy, making it a phenomenon diversifier in commercial real estate portfolio, meaning every investor institutional needs some of this in their portfolio, said Fred Pierce of San Diego's Fierce Education Properties. Since 2007, the company has acquired more than $1 billion in student apartments, totaling almost 27,000 beds near big name institutions like Michigan State University, Iowa State University, and University of Florida. Investor optimism is fueling record pricing. A joint venture of Chicago Core Spaces, a residential developer, and Harris Street, an investment management firm, paid $21.5 million in January for about a third of an acre across from UC Berkeley. So an investor or a developer can come in there and buy land and build, but the own university is not buying their own land and building. Strange, right? Wonder where the money and profit is going for the university. Not into housing. The seller had the city's permission to build a 232-bed, 87-unit student housing project, meaning the partnership paid more than $247,000 per unit to take control of the site. That's a big number. $247,000 a unit. That's for the land. That surpassed the previous record by 26%, according to January news release from CBRE, which represented in the seller. But the reason why they would pay $247,000 per unit of land is because they can fit 232 beds in there. It's only 87 units, but inside that 87 units, it's a 4X. That's how Student housing makes a lot of money. It's almost like with doing Airbnb where you have one room, but you're able to rent it 7 nights a week. You have one room, but you can put four beds in it 4 times. First year applications to schools with populations of at least 10,000 that admit fewer than half of its candidates rose 11%. So if you have a school of 10,000, they admit half of that, those numbers rose 11% compared to 2019 and 2020, even as overall US undergraduate enrollment dropped by almost 7%. Room and board costs in the meantime have risen steadily in the past decade, in part due to surging home prices. Seems like every price in real estate, commercial real estate has risen in the past 3 years. Some selective schools have done a better job than others of keeping those costs under control. UC Berkeley had a 12% increase in annual room and board fees from 2009 to 2019 for 10 years, which were about $17,200 a year. While such fees jumped 37% at the University of Maryland, College Park, which is about 5,000 fewer students, according to the Chronicle of Higher Education. Rents for properties in Berkeley, similar to the one core spaces, have reached as high as $14 a square foot a month currently. When CBR's Keith Manson, who helped broker the core Harrison deal, was marketing apartment project sites for sale in the best areas of the Oakland and Berkeley in 2019, people would underwrite $4.50 a foot. Today they're going for $14 a foot. 2 years ago, they were going for $4.50 a foot. $4.50. What an increase. Back to school. Strong enrollment demographics at top tier universities as new private dorm supply is at its low in more than a decade means it's a highly attractive supply and demand environment. Enrollment's going up. There's nowhere for the students to stay. What's going to happen? Dum, dum, dum. The developers step in and the investors make the money. Shares of Austin-based company, which manages more than 200 U.S. student housing properties, ended a 2021 at all-time high of $57 and have hovered at above the level since then, even after the company's net income fell by more than half last year to $36 million. All-time high at $57 for its stock, even though the company's net income fell by more than half last year to $36 million. Something seems off there. If you're a pension fund or a life insurance company and you're going to invest across commercial real estate, it makes sense for you to be looking at some of these niche asset classes. While the market's outlook is bright for investors, it's everything but for students. Of the almost 200,000 and 4 year university students who respond to a national survey last year, 14% said they had been homeless in the past 12 months. Aren't all students homeless? Isn't that why they're going to school, to get out of their parents' home and live on their own for a while? The caveat, the respondents represented 1% of the total population of students, and colleges and universities aren't required to keep track of homeless students. The latest federal data, which found that at least 56,000 college students were homeless, dates back to 2015. This is kind of funny. I don't know. I don't really understand. Homeless college students. Where are they? Where are they going? They just went to school and had nowhere to stay, but they just got into school but couldn't find a couch or girlfriend. In addition, colleges have plenty of reasons why they can't or choose not to graduate housing for all enrollees, including the availability of developable land, the affordability of residential market, and class sizes. In any event, the problem is undeniably dire. In August 2018, a month before the start of the fall quarter, UC Santa Cruz emailed about 6,000 faculty and staff members, asking them to open their homes to incoming students. The Chronicle of Higher Education reported the university offers on-campus housing to about 9,300 students, half its population, and the highest proportion in the UC system. That leaves the other half to find living quarters in pricey area. While UC Santa Cruz wants to add 2,100 on-campus student beds, it's been hampered by two lawsuits filed by local groups. Many new and returning students were struggling to find affordable housing options in the week before the start of the current academic year. Band-Aid on a bullet wound. In Berkeley, the multifamily residential development pipeline is bustling after decades of sitting idle. Developers have filed plans with the city for more than 500 new apartments over the past 6 months alone, more than half of them near UC Berkeley's campus. The shortage has been a self inflicted wound because for many years it was impossible to build anything in Berkeley, said developer Patrick Kennedy, who lived in the city for 36 years and has built more than 500 apartments there since 1998. UC Berkeley Chancellor Carol Christ vowed in 2018 to build 7,500 beds over the next decade, spread across People's Park and 9 other sites. Even if that target is met, it's still only part way to achieving its housing goals, as university officials acknowledge. Some higher end institutions seeking a temporary solution to their long term housing problems have been putting their students up in nearby hotels. That can't be cheap. It's an approach that one University of San Diego sophomore likened to putting a band aid on a bullet wound in an interview at news outlets Cal Matters last year. That's what happened to Alexander Farr, a student at Sarah Lawrence College, which just has 1,700 students. The school put her and about 100 others in the Hyatt Place, about a 20-minute walk from campus last semester. Even after Farr submitted her housing application and deposit on time, some 4,500 students applied last year for about 400 freshman slots, a record number that was up 20% from the previous year. There was a shuttle to and from the hotel and school, which was not that reliable, said Farr, who grew up in Australia and is majoring in liberal arts and concentrating in music and Chinese. I would usually go to school with all my books for that day and not come back until it was dark. For the upcoming school year, she's looking to live with 7 friends in a converted house on campus. Because of her semester long stay in the Hyatt, she'll get to choose her housing 2 days before the selection process opens to most of the student body on April 16th. Will it be the house that I want? Probably not, the sophomore said. Will I be housed? Probably. So, huge, 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 huge housing problem for the students. Big, big, big opportunity for the developers and then the investors who invest in those developments. I don't think that we should have a housing problem for students. It's one thing to say that we need people to get educations. And then for those students who actually do good in school and care about going to colleges, fill out the application, get accepted, are excited, leave their parents' house, go to stay. Even at the Sarah, the last person that they spoke of in the article, they accepted her money and then they didn't have a place to put her. So why is colleges accepting students' money for housing if they don't have a bed for them? One. And why is this so hard to find land that's buildable, or why can't we make the numbers work for the students? And I don't see this getting better pretty soon with this high inflation and the rates going up, the cost of money going up. Hopefully, something happens sooner than later and we get more kids and more beds, or that whole experience of actually going off to college could maybe just drift away and more kids are going to be, you know, going to school online and staying at home a lot longer.